What if I told you that one of the most powerful investing lessons for today's market is hiding in a document from 1988? We're going to travel back in time, using a single letter to shareholders from Warren Buffett, and what we're going to find is an absolute masterclass in principles that are more relevant now than ever.
And you might be thinking, 1988? Really? What does that have to do with anything happening right now? And that's a fair question. But see, this letter isn't just a dusty old financial report. It's a time capsule. It's packed with a way of thinking that helps you cut right through the noise no matter what decade you're in.
Okay, so the document we're unpacking is the 1988 Berkshire Hathaway shareholder letter. And to really get what Buffett's saying, we have to feel the vibe of the market back then. And let me tell you, it was an era of serious financial whiplash. So just 1 year before this letter, the market had one of the worst days in its entire history, Black Monday. It was a total catastrophe. People were terrified, right? The memory of that pain was still super fresh, so you'd think the name of the game would be caution. Well, that's not exactly how things played out. Because, Wall Street has a famously short memory. The terror of '87 just evaporated, and it was replaced by this new manic fever. Suddenly, it was the age of the leveraged buyout, the LBO. And this wasn't just business as usual. Oh no. This was a full-on frenzy of corporate raiders, insane amounts of debt, and deals so big they just seemed to defy reality.
And this was the poster child for all that excess. $25 billion. That was the price for the takeover of RJR Nabisco. The fight for it was so legendary, they literally wrote a book and made a movie about it called Barbarians at the Gate. It was the biggest, craziest deal of them all, fueled by just unthinkable piles of debt.
And here's what's so telling. How did Buffett react to all this? He wasn't jealous. He was deeply, deeply cautious. He actually used this famous line from The Wizard of Oz to describe what was happening. He saw Wall Street leaving the solid ground of business reality and just floating off into a fantasy land of what he called extraordinary excesses.
So you basically had these two totally different games being played on the same field. On one side, you've got Wall Street playing this incredibly complex, high-stakes game of financial chess. And on the other side, you have Buffett, and he's playing a completely different game. He wasn't looking at spreadsheets. He was looking for something real.
So, what did Buffett do? While all the barbarians were fighting over Nabisco, he was making his own moves, and they could not have been more different. I mean, the entire financial world was zagging, and he was taking a hard zig.
He bought a jewelry store. Seriously, Borsheim's of Omaha. There were no hostile takeovers, no mountains of debt. He just bought a fantastic business run by people he genuinely liked and trusted. He even tells this amazing story of how he bought it. The owner just told him what the business was worth, and Bucket wrote a check. That's it. No army of auditors, just a handshake and trust.
Now, this wasn't just some random purchase. It fit his playbook perfectly. He actually lays out his rules right there in the letter, and you got to look at number 5. Simple businesses. This is his famous circle of competence in action. He wasn't trying to figure out complicated debt deals. He was buying what he knew, what he understood. A fantastically run, simple, profitable business.
So what made these simple businesses so powerful? Well, they had what he would later call an economic moat, this deep, durable advantage that competitors just can't touch. Now, interestingly, he doesn't actually use the word moat in this 1988 letter, but he describes the concept perfectly through another one of his local Omaha businesses.
This quote, "This is maybe the best definition of a moat you'll ever find." Dillard's, a huge, successful national chain, came to Omaha, took one look at Buffett's Nebraska Furniture Mart, and basically said, "Nope, we're not even going to try." Think about that. When your competition refuses to even get in the ring with you, you know you've got something special. That's a moat.
So we've seen what he buys, but the real timeless lesson here is in how he thinks. How on earth did he stay so disciplined and so clear-headed when pretty much the rest of the world was losing its mind in a speculative frenzy? Well, it comes down to a few really powerful mental models. First off, he had a healthy dose of skepticism. He goes on this brilliant little rant in the letter about the problems with standard accounting. He knew how easy it was for companies to use the rules to paint a pretty picture that wasn't, well, real. This wasn't just about finding fraud. It was about demanding intellectual honesty and seeing the true business behind the numbers.
Second, he took on the big academic theory of the day, the efficient market theory. This was the idea they taught in every business school, and it basically said you can't beat the market because stock prices already have all the information baked in. So trying to find a bargain, total waste of time, according to the professors.
And Buffett's response to this fancy theory? He just pointed to the scoreboard.
For 63 years, the investing style he learned from his mentor, Ben Graham, had returned about 20% a year, just crushing the market's 10%. For Buffett, the proof was right there. The market wasn't some perfect all-knowing machine. It was a place full of opportunities if you were willing to think for yourself.
So all of this, the crazy LBOs, buying a family jewelry store, calling out bogus accounting, taking on the academics, it all builds to one central, powerful, timeless idea. This is the real golden rule from 1988.
When you step back and look at the whole letter, you realize that every story he tells, every decision he explains, it's all pointing to the same core philosophy. It's the simple idea that guided all of his actions during that wild year of excess.
And here it is. This is the big one. It's so simple, but so profound. The crazier and more reckless other people get, the more careful and disciplined you need to be. When the party is getting out of control, that's your cue to be the designated driver. It's about being contrary, not just to be different, but to be prudent, to be safe.
And that right there brings the lesson of 1988 right into our world today. Because the names and the technologies change, but human nature doesn't. The LBO mania of the 80s doesn't look so different from the crazes we see today, does it? So the timeless question this letter leaves us with is this: where do you see people being reckless today? And the really important part, how are you going to conduct your own affairs?